So after season 2, my wife and I were getting divorced, and she got a lawyer, and she was trying to get me to give her a bunch of money, which I wanted to give her some, but I didn't want to give her so much that I couldn't live, which is what she was trying to get me to do.
She's entitled to half your assets. And according to her, you have income from Brick TV that she's entitled to half of. That's true.
Wait a minute, I don't actually have an income from Brick TV. They give me money to make a TV show, and I spend it on the show. There's no salary. There's just the budget for the show. In fact, I lose money because I end up spending more money than it costs to make the show.
Oh, come on. You really want me to believe that you're making a TV show that you're not getting paid for? And that it's actually costing you money to make it?
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Why would anyone do that?
It's called art.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they pee on you? Bad boys,
right?
bad boys.
Well, what if they peed on you?
Went down wicked dicky.
Yeah, he doesn't know the words. Yeah,
that's a bit in the movie.
Yeah,
and you know
this
what?
Is, kind
of true.
Yes, I don't know the words.
Who does know the lyrics of
Bad
Boys?
You know, this is the Bad Boys 2 and final Caveh Zahedi movie podcast
for a while.
Yeah, this is a movie about all the things that make America great.
Yep.
Sorry, movie? Did I say movie? This is a podcast about all the things that make America great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Intellectual discourse.
Yep. Michael Bay.
The young
Bayhem
generation.
Yeah.
PC-ness.
Yeah. He did say PC-ness a lot, didn't he? Which is funny because it sounds like penis.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember like a long time ago saying, "Oh, so and so PC or this or that." It's like that, to get called on it. Like that's what the conservatives say. Like political correctness is like a conservative like invention, right? To label But it is funny when people use it for lack of a better term, because like Caveh never said the word woke or wokeness, right? Which
that might have been just before woke.
It was definitely
fire.
It might have been there, but I mean on stage like this.
Oh, true. Yeah,
he never said that because that word has been so co-opted and loaded now.
You can't really say it and be taken seriously.
Exactly right. Exactly.
One way or the other.
Yeah. So. Anyway,
friend of the pod, Caveh Zahedi.
Yeah, honestly, an actual friend of the pod. So let's talk about that first, right off the bat.
Yeah.
How many minutes are we in?
2-minute warning. Football next week. It's back, baby. I'm so excited.
Alex is excited. Yeah.
I'm going to
live in a fantasy world.
But also in reality, because I'm going to Minneapolis to see the Vikings play.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Minneapolis Vikings. That's what I associate.
Home of the William H. Macy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's great. Maybe you'll see him. Yeah. That's fun. Or with your fantasy football team crowd?
No, just with a friend of mine who's really big on the Vikings.
Nice.
I could care less. We're seeing the Vikings and the Texans play, and I have no stake in the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You should bet on it, though.
That would make it more interesting for sure.
You should bet. How much money do you have in the bank account? Be honest. I'm talking to the dollar.
Well, when I factor the stuff from the show...
from this show?
Yeah. Hundreds of thousands.
Right. So very little actually in the account, but the Patreon, like the fluid, liquid money that's coming in, right, is a lot.
I'm going to bet you on the game.
All right.
But don't worry, I'm feeling good about the Texans.
All right, well, I'll take the Vikings. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, I meant I'm going to put you on the line.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure. You're going to bet my ass. Yeah. Okay. I understand.
Yeah.
Well, sure. That's fine.
Yeah.
It was bound to happen eventually. One of us was going to bet or sell the other one.
That's true. Yeah.
For money. And that's okay. As long as we keep doing the show.
That's what the podcast is about.
Well, as long as we keep continuing the podcast afterwards.
I guess it'll depend on your new owner.
Yeah, but we'll have to do it. There's no bad blood.
You become owned by like BetMGM or something.
You open your phone, you're scrolling on whatever, and you see a BetMGM ad, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna block this or whatever, and then it's me like, hey, like, oh, spread bets, something, la la la.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this under coercion. Yeah. I love betting.
That's it.
We took a bet this week, betting on a certain crazy filmmaker, Caveh Zahedi,
yes,
who we have talked about in the past couple of episodes, watching his stuff in anticipation for a 2-night cinema event put on by the good people at Bleeding Edge in Toronto.
Cool name.
Cool name, yeah, and in many cases true. Is this not the bleeding edge of cinema? This cinema was so edgy and so
I cut myself.
yeah, and so bloody that it's not even released.
That is true.
That is how on the edge of the cutting edge, the bleeding edge it is. Last week we talked about the show about the show. Mm-hmm. In many ways, this is the class about the class. Mm-hmm. Higher Education 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, which is called How to Overthrow the U.S. Government Legally.
Yes.
So over 2 nights, we watched these works in progress. Which very, very much follow the same format of the show about the show, but are about Caveh's like students in the new school in New York, which is like
liberal arts, progressive, kind of like a Manhattan Wesleyan. It feels like.
Right. But with the facilities of a Toronto film school, if I may, which is very funny.
Yes.
And Alex and I actually did get to meet Caveh and talk with him a little bit.
We sure did. We conducted an interview.
We sort of did. We should have whipped out our phones. I'm pretty sure if we just were like, listen, could you record a quick something for the show? He would have said, yeah, okay.
I think so too. But I'm
glad we didn't.
I'm glad we didn't.
Yeah.
But we could have.
We could have.
He was down to chill.
He was cool. I mean, listen, I've spent a lot of this past couple of weeks saying, I hate this man. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's not true. You watch these movies and you're like, he's very off-putting. And then, of course, you realize, as he has said in interviews, he is sort of like Jesus, right? Mm. He is crucifying himself with his honesty and exposing all of his deepest, darkest secrets and desires, so that we don't have to,
Yeah.
And isn't that nice,
And he's a very perplexing public figure because on camera he's so open and ready to talk, and he doesn't shut up sometimes, whereas he is far more reserved and particular and thoughtful with his words in person. Like he's really not like an obnoxious figure or anything like that.
Well, no, not really. I mean, there was every now and again a bit of it would come out, I think, but no, he is different. So we watched Higher Education 1 and 2 the first night, and then Matt Johnson, director of Blackberry and the Dirties and so on and so forth, did a Q&A with him. And Matt Johnson is very like, I don't know, what's the word? He had kind of a Chad sort of energy to Caveh's,
He was a lot more buff than I thought he would be.
He's very buff, and he's very confident. Gregarious.
Yeah.
But he was also kind of needling him a little bit, which was funny because, Caveh did seem a little bit like reserved, right?
It was a funny dynamic because he would ask these very in-depth, multi-layered, thoughtful questions, and I was like, oh wow, that is a really good question. Matt Johnson, that he would spend 2 minutes going through the question basically, and I was like, I would like to hear an answer to that. And then Caveh would just be like, yeah, I agree.
He'd be like, yes.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah. Or he would just flat out say I don't know.
Yeah, which I think is partly honest to some extent.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And then the second night, we talked to him very briefly, we just had a little opportune moment to go and speak with him before the screening started.
Yeah.
And
he signed your chest.
Yeah, he signed my tits. And he signed my DVD set of his movies. And then after that, we actually had a nice conversation with him about how he should release the movies and what the process is like, and if it's possible, and his struggles doing so, and how he we'll talk about the movies in a second, but how he was having an issue releasing Higher Education 2 or any of them, but in particular that one, which is probably the most
incendiary,
it's
controversial.
It's crazy. And he said, I'd submitted it to Sundance and they had rejected it and whatever else. And we were talking, he was like, I think he was kind of asking us, as young people, or people at least younger than he is, and as good left-leaning progressive Torontonians, is it possible to release this in this climate? And it was cool that he kind of asked, so a lot of interactions, it's and it's not like he's some mega star or whatever, but a lot of interactions with famous people or directors, they're like, oh, I love your work. And they're like, hey, thank you. That means a lot. And you're like, okay, well, they probably get that a lot. And that's the end of the conversation.
It felt like he was genuinely sourcing our opinion.
Yeah, he did. He was like, can we release this? Like, what do you think? And and I was like, well, like, yeah, I think you can. Like, I think things have cooled down from the moment that it was filmed.
For sure.
Enough that, and I think that the film itself, I think, is relatively nuanced. Like,
yeah,
I think there's definitely, I mean, he's going to get some pushback, and he comes off like kind of not super good in the movie either. No. Like a lot of his films, he implicates himself just as much as anybody else. And, but I think it's the kind of thing that kind of has to be seen. But
that's what I think kind of makes it safer to release is the, relative even-handedness, even though they're angry hands on both sides.
Definitely.
But the climate has shifted a tiny bit, and no doubt some people, it'll touch a nerve and they'll be very quick to condemn it. But I feel like most people could appreciate it as like a snapshot of a very tense time.
Yeah. Well, so maybe I did this the wrong way. We should talk about what it is.
Yeah.
Because people have no idea what we're talking about, I guess. Sorry. So he, at his class at the new school, which is, I guess, ostensibly a like media production, like web series production class, which is funny. Like, he's making the show about the show concurrently with this. These haven't been released, but they were shot. Like the first one's like what, 2017 or 18 or something.
Yeah, and there's some like overlap. You see some of the students from the first season within the show about the show. So I guess new school is like, hey, you're doing this relatively successful thing online for Brick TV. Why don't you teach a class about it?
Brick TV.
And Caveh, being the opportunist that he is, he kind of was like, what if the class was just every day? The students come in the class and they, maybe we talk a bit, learn a bit, but they film and reenact like what happened in class that day. Yeah. Very similar to the show about the show.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of confessionals, like camera addresses, they call them, right? And he's basically like making a reality TV show with undergrad students about the college class. Something that Matt Johnson mentioned that I think really sort of is the key to all of this is that these kids presumably haven't seen a lot of Caveh's work. Some of them have, they mention it, but like they might not be aware that like this sort of form of filmmaking is something that he is like it's not like he invented it, but he's certainly a pioneer of it. Yeah. Matt Johnson kept saying he invented it. It's like, I know he's just, what are you going to say? It's like, well, I don't think he invented it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what he's getting at.
Yeah, I know what he's getting at. He's certainly like the guy who does it. Yeah. And he is turning these children into little Cavehs and celebrities. So by the end of the series, it's no longer you're just like, who are these people? It's just like reality TV. When you're introduced to people in the first episode, the personalities develop and this and that, but you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't give a shit about any of these people. And then by the end, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe like, Crystal said that about Jimmy or whatever. They become complete, total celebrities. And it's crazy that these undergrad students signed up for this class and are now part of this like work forever. Yeah. Although, and maybe this is part of why there's some hesitancy to release it. Like aside from certain legal issues, like they did sign releases and so on, but it's
like the first thing they're asked to do when they get to the class. You know, they're kind of giving them immediately.
If you want to be in this class, you have to sign this.
Yeah, or like drop out. It's probably like easier to just sign it before. Yeah. Instead of dealing with any administrative stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are sort of coerced into it. Yeah. So the first season. I guess it's like their seasons. Maybe it's a web show. Maybe it's a movie. We don't know. Yeah. Let's just say the first season is like about an hour long, and there's some drama. There's some characters, but for the most part, like, it's like an introduction to this idea, right?
Yes, and a lot of the kind of quote unquote drama stems from more just like the students being like, this is an unorthodox class. Like this class is kind of like, laissez-faire. like maybe let's, smoke some pot before going to class. And then that was like kind of the controversy surrounding the first season, was like the students like admit to smoking pot or like drinking on the facility grounds.
Yeah.
And maybe they have like a bit of interpersonal like back and forth bitching at one another, as all like, young 20 something or younger students do. So it's and like not very much Caveh either. It's
no.
He really lets the students kind of shoot the reenactments, do the addresses. It really focuses on them. You see glimpses of him throughout it, which are usually very funny.
Definitely.
And then at the end, he like grades everyone, which was kind of fun too.
Which is funny, yeah. But yeah, definitely different than his other work, because he is not the center of it. Now, and definitely more so in the second one, which we'll talk about now. But like, he is infecting these students with the Caveh virus. He is giving them the cure from cure, or the chime from chime, as I've said.
Yes.
And they're going out there and stabbing other people to death. In the second one, which is double the length of the first one, but flies by probably twice as fast. The Higher Education 2, if it ever comes out, is an absolutely incredible film. It is very difficult. It is very uncomfortable. It's extremely bracing and confrontational. Alex and I were not in school during the kind of post-Trump era, like I guess lots of other, like Me Too and like Black Lives Matter, and a lot of other political moments that were happening around the election, and then after the election, and then forever, basically. But we were both alive and in conversations with friends and in online communities, and I think both of us would agree that it was a very like politically like tense and fractious time, where, and I'm definitely guilty of this as well, like many periods of my life where I would not be careful with my words and be like, a piece of shit, say something sexist or racist or even not even that, maybe even just not thoughtful or not like, or not informed, just ignorant, just like straight up ignorant. Right. And then, getting called on that eventually, finally, many times, eventually there's like a kind of a corrective, and maybe an overcorrect, where then you start to, like a lot of people around this time, like, jumping down people's throats anytime they said something even remotely out of step, right?
Yeah.
And I used to do this with my family, right? And I still have political disagreements with my family, like from now and again. But now I feel like we have, well, not all the time, but more than back then. I've kind of have more of an understanding or a language with which to speak with certain things about, instead of just jumping down people's throats and saying like, how could you say that, you ignorant idiot? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so this is basically a snapshot of that time, but not just like amongst young progressive people, whatever. It's specifically in like a art school, liberal arts college, like undergrad milieu. And it's insane.
It's riveting.
It's riveting.
And you're right. It was like, I learned in therapy that like sometimes the content of what you're saying is totally valid, but sometimes the issue is with how you're saying it, and your tone. Yeah. And just the tone at that time was just off the charts. It was extremely volatile. Yeah. So and you see that, and like there's so many, all the different students that they're different kind of like facets and characters, and there's like there's that one guy Peter who's just the kind of like, I don't get it, like what's the big deal guy, and that sets people off. He's just he's like the ultimate example of like straight up ignorance. Yeah, where he just like fully is checked out and has no idea what is going on around him. Yeah. And he, owns up to it a bit. Like he ends up becoming like, and this is just by value of like how unsympathetic a lot of these characters are. He is like one of the more sympathetic characters towards the end. You have like Ellis, this like weird guy who looks like so familiar. Like everyone has an Ellis in his life, Yeah. And he's simultaneously like ignorant and wrong about so many things, but then also like works so hard to like preserve an image.
Yeah, to me, he is kind of like I kind of acted like that a lot for a while. You know, where he's this well-meaning white guy who, like, you know, maybe is not the most informed, but like, so then when he's called out on things, his heart is in the right place, and because he thinks his heart is in the right place, he thinks he's right.
Yeah.
Even though he's like not. And so then when he gets called out, he's like, "Oh, how could you do that to me?" He's like very dramatic and like damaged, you know. It's like, how could I be wrong if, you know, he's kind of the prototypical like white liberal.
Yeah,
where he's
yeah.
like, how could I be wrong if I believe in all the right things?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
And then he calls out like other people too, when some of the other students are like, no, like you're reaching, like I forget what it is about, but there's one moment where he has that kind of that performative like outrage at something that like no one else is really feeling.
Yeah, that's right. It is very performativity is like one of the main subjects of this.
Totally.
Kind of,
And because it's also funny because it drives Caveh insane because his whole shtick is about being like honest and vulnerable.
Radical honesty.
Yeah, it's...
And you know, and then he also, you know, he's many years older than everybody.
Yeah.
And is you know, had more life experience, but is also like, you know, kind of struggling to accept, or maybe not accept, but like reorient himself to the current moment and the current like language, right?
Yeah, it's just, in my Letterboxd review, I likened it to Lord of the Flies. It kind of feels like that. It's like the crumbling of a group of students that represent like society at that time. It's actually amazing.
It's amazing. So it's, you know, we're introduced to all these characters, and you see the conflict developing, and Caveh is much more present in this one.
Yeah.
And you see the glee on it. And Matt Johnson mentioned this in the Q&A. There's a moment where you kind of see the glee on his face, where he's like, it's happening.
Yes,
like the thing I kind of wanted to happen is happening. The drama is happening. Like shit is hitting the fan, and he stokes the flames, right?
Yeah.
And it's honestly, you know, it's somewhat irresponsible.
It is.
He's the teacher.
As a teacher, for sure.
He's supposed to be, you know, he's supposed to maintain some sort of law and order, and he's supposed to, like, you know, I think be sensitive to his students' needs.
Yeah.
And he's kind of, you know, fanning the flames, right? Because the central conflict between sort of Caveh and the class, but especially Caveh and the student Roxana, who is like an outspoken black woman, who is, I think, often kind of dismissed a lot, and kind of written off as being like very angry and volatile. The issue, though, is that like everyone in the class has issues with performativity, and that's kind of the main thing. And it seems like Roxana's issue with performativity is like a performative, like, anger in a way. You know,
she's very confrontational.
It's extremely confrontational, and
she's very quick to jump to that too.
Yeah,
versus
exactly.
having a conversation, like you said, the jumping down people's throats.
It's exactly a jumping down people's throats, and it creates a lot of tension in the class.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, a lot of that tension is sort of warranted because people are racist in the class, like in but not in a, you know, foaming at the mouth kind of like clear, obvious, like blatantly racist sort of way, but in a like a very kind of typical microaggression sort of way, right? And then Caveh is kind of, you know, stokes this, because what I think a lot of teachers, especially at the time, or even still now, would do is they would shut everything down and basically say, we're you know, you apologize to you and you apologize to you, and then we're not going to talk about it, right? We're going to like nip this in the bud so that it doesn't develop into further resentment. But what Caveh does is he is the complete opposite. He just fans the flames, and he's like, we are going to unpack like why this is happening, and that further alienates everybody, basically. You know. And they, you know, Roxana and the only other black woman in the class end up quitting the class and like protesting the class. But then they also make up allegations against Caveh that he had forced them to share
talk
their
about
sexual assault stories, which you know, because everything's being filmed, you know, and
we know
isn't true, and that further, you know, and then it's just absolutely bonkers crazy. You know, I don't know what happens if it ever gets released. It's a very uncomfortable movie. but I think it's actually this has a lot of interesting things to say. And like on the one hand, Caveh never should have done it. This is true of all of his movies. Like, I don't think he should not have released this psychic damage to everybody, but he did do it, and it's kind of fascinating. So I don't know.
It's extremely fascinating. It's extremely, like you said, uncomfortable, and I felt more tense watching that than a modern thriller.
Yeah.
But it's also really funny.
It's really funny.
And it's engaging, and you can't stop watching, and it's the longest one. It's 2 hours.
Yeah.
And but like I could watch it for, I don't know, 3, 4. I could watch like endless seasons of it with like that cohort.
It's crazy.
But
yeah.
It's just the one semester and stuff, so it's over. And I just really hope he gets to release it, because I've like spoken to people since. I was like, I want you to watch this crazy movie.
Yeah.
And they can't at the moment. But hopefully he takes our advice.
Just put it online.
Yeah, put it out there.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating watch and an entertaining watch and an irresponsible watch, but it's such a good watch.
Yeah, I agree. And then the third and the fourth feel a lot different, and they are. And it sort of can't help but feel like you're a little let down because the second one is so insane. But the third one, I think is kind of like, what if we tried to get the second one happening again, but there isn't any drama and people aren't really interested in that? Right?
Which is I think for the best for the kids, for their like mental health and stuff like that. But, not the best for me, the audience. But it is fascinating, because we'll talk about the fourth one too. But watching the third one, you really, they all work together quite well, because you could kind of see the progression of the class as well, like as the actual class.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh yeah, there's a scene where he's not in class because he's basically like at a hearing for what he did in the second season.
Yeah.
And there is just like an air of, being subdued and censoring yourself and like being self-policing your language, which is like a theme in the second one too, but like you kind of see it in effect in the third one, because it is so, again, probably for the best, but it's reined in.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one, which I really wasn't expecting, you kind of see like the positive potential of this experiment that he's doing.
And it's smart that like, so, there's a number of reasons why he doesn't do it anymore. Probably because he was just getting in trouble. Yeah. Like he said that more or less. But this is also the perfect place to end it, because it feels like if number one was sort of the dry run for the experiment, number two was the most successful possible experiment you could have in terms of creating the most toxic, dramatic atmosphere.
Yeah.
Number three was, again, a response to that, and therefore a little bit of fallout, a bit of a letdown, whatever. And then number four is the most successful experiment in terms of positivity, love, politics, even radical love and acceptance and community.
Yeah.
And it's all of these words you would not associate with his body of work.
Which I think like makes it like such an amazing, I know it's not the last thing he'll ever do, but like
no, he's gonna die.
At
he's
least
gonna drop dead.
This saga, is such a good end point, because the kids seem to, like you mentioned, they get infected with the Caveh virus, but they really take it to heart and open their hearts. The Caveh virus, like ecstasy, causes your heart chakra to open.
Yes, exactly. Well said.
And they really connect with each other as students, as people. Like they grow to really understand one another. They're like rallying together to try to raise money for one of them who can't afford tuition anymore.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's oddly beautiful. And Caveh cries in the movie. Yeah. And then he said he cried like watching the screening. So it's obviously like, affected him too. Like it's
definitely.
It's like kind of, I'm sure it's like what he's been chasing like his whole life through his oeuvres, seeing radical honesty and vulnerability really take root in other humans and affect positive change.
Yeah,
it must feel so
the key word
rewarding.
being positive instead of ripping everyone's life apart. Yeah,
and his own.
He didn't even need to force them to do ecstasy to get it done, right?
Yeah, there is a really funny scene in the third one where he's like, I'm not saying you should all do drugs before coming to the class, but like imagine what it would be like if we were on drugs.
Yeah, like
the kids are such drips.
Yeah, it's so boring. He's like, let's say the kid, let's like what if we were all high? What would that be like?
And also,
Yeah.
I just wanted to shout out that when we were talking about him last episode, we brought up Hamilton Morris,
Oh
Hamilton
my God.
Pharmacopoeia.
Oh, yeah, I almost died.
Hamilton Morris jump scare in the third one, which was so funny because we were talking about him as like not as those Vice presenters as like not as authentic as like a Caveh, right?
Yeah.
But obviously they're all still pals or know of each other.
Sure, of course, they're all fans.
Because to try to inject some life into this lifeless third season class, he has Hamilton Morris come in to talk to the students, and they don't know what to make of him.
Yeah,
They're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Maybe they've seen his show, or maybe they haven't. But he comes in and they all make fun of him. They're like, who is this guy? Like, who is this? He looks like who is this fancy lad, Nepo baby, like whatever, they're not interested. And so first off, seeing him in it, I was like, oh God, fuck off. Not this guy. and then how he fits into the story is so funny.
Yeah.
Cause they're like, this is not going to make us interested in, we don't not care about this guy.
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Yeah.
So funny. In the fourth one, he has one of the yes men in. I don't remember which one it is.
Jacques.
Jacques Serin or whatever his name is. But and he changes the name from Higher Education 4 to like How to Overthrow the U.S. Government Legally. And that's sort of the idea is like with the rise of like Trump and fascism in the United States and all this other stuff. And it is another sort of snapshot of the like children in cages sort of era of like political American discourse, right?
Yeah.
And like, what are we going to do? How are we going to affect like change? And they try all these things like, okay, well, we're doing canvassing, or we're doing this, or we're doing that. And for the most part, like nothing really works. Like a lot of organizing around that time, I don't really know this. Sorry, I don't know what I'm talking. I haven't done anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not an activist. I do not have a taste for anything, for organizing or anything like that. I can barely show up to a march sometimes, but I'm a lazy man. We're marching to the cinema. You know what I mean? But no, like a lot of like smaller scale community organizing, there's a lot of discussion about what to do, but there's a lot of infighting as well about what, and again, like kind of fractious like dialogue about like who is going to do what, and judging people for, oh, you didn't show up to this and that, and so on and so forth. But then ultimately what it leads to, which is really beautiful, is that they realize like when one of the students presents this problem, like that she's not going to be able to pay her tuition, they realize that that is a positive change they can actually make, that they can help fundraise and pay for this girl's tuition, and that love can be a radical political act.
Sure.
And community, is the essence of like political action, and it's beautiful. And it's literally like a let's all hug and cry type movie, and it's so refreshing after all of the insanity and like manufactured chaos of the other ones.
Absolutely.
So like, it's really beautiful. All of them should be seen together. Like,
they should.
Like even if the third one Caveh said is his least favorite, and I think it's probably everybody's least favorite, like it has to be, it's all part of the narrative, and they should all be watched together, and it's amazing. And I hope he puts it out.
And
eventually.
in terms of the power ranking, I agree with Caveh's power ranking because he ranked them as part of the Q&A.
Yeah.
And he put 2, 4, which is How to Overthrow the U.S. Government Legally, 1 and 3.
100%. Yeah. I agree.
It's great. And we went with a friend of the pod, Catherine.
Yep.
And she said that she thought it might be the best series of college movies ever. And I'm kind of inclined to agree.
Yeah, well, we'll see once we do, what's the college series? American Pie.
Not really. It's more
Not
of a
really.
high school.
Oh, yeah. They go to college eventually.
Yeah. For one of
I don't
them.
know. You're the expert, man.
That's true. There's a couple of the direct to video ones are set at college.
Yeah.
But those aren't good.
No, of course not.
So
Do you see anything else?
no.
In between now and then?
Bad Boys.
Oh, okay, great. I saw a couple of things. I'll be quick.
Yeah, okay.
I saw Curtis Harrington's Night Tide from 1961 with Dennis Hopper. It's kind of like a very cool kind of Corman adjacent, like Kenneth Angry kind of adjacent, like horror movie from like the early 60s, like early Dennis Hopper lead performance, queer coded, creepy, mermaids. I don't know. It's cool. It's very cool. And I watched that like just while I was folding laundry before Higher Education 3. So I enjoyed that. And then a couple things I'm catching up before I see some movies at the Toronto International Film Festival this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be seeing a movie called Collective Monologue or maybe it's Collective Monologues from Jessica Sarah Rinland, who's like a documentary filmmaker who shoots on film and does these like nature movies. So I watched her like 2018 film Black Pond, which was really cool. It's like a kind of 45-minute like I guess nature film about like it's kind of like Planet Earth, but what if it was shot in like 16 millimeter and had a more experimental focus and like took place in a swamp. Yeah, cool. It's great. It's really cool, and I'm excited for this other one. Although I unfortunately did peek at Letterboxd and maybe the reviews aren't super great, but this is the way it is. I'm taking chances, right? Speaking of taking chances, not really taking chances, honestly. I'm going. That's part of the wavelength section, which if you're going to go to two things at TIFF, and you know, like let's say all the buzzy stuff is taken, and you're just like seeing what's available, and you want to take a chance, but the chance is like so anywhere between $35 and $50 a ticket, which is ludicrous. Your safest bet is either Midnight Madness or Wavelengths. Those are the two like kind of best programs there is. Midnight for genre, comedy, action, whatever, horror, whatever it is, and Wavelengths for like experimental films. And a lot of the stuff in Wavelengths like don't really get shown in theaters elsewhere outside of the film festival circuit, so it's a good opportunity to see that. So I'm seeing a program where, like last year, they played Jean-Luc Godard's final film, right? Trailer of a film that will never exist, Phony Wars. This year, they're playing his actual final film that was like finished on the day of his death. You know what I mean? Like, and then the documentary sort of whatever about the final film, which is also like made by him. Like, so when people saw this was his last film, but now it's his second last film. I don't know. So I watched that, and that's playing in a program with a new film from the British experimental filmmaker John Smith. So I watched trailer of a film that will never exist, Phony Wars, and like a lot of like late period Godard movies kind of went over my head a little bit. Like I have not seen as much of his more recent work to understand a lot of the references he's making within it. Also just like in general, I just like it's more, you have to be more well-read than I am, I think, to get a lot of this sort of stuff. But it's still fascinating. It's something also, it's 20 minutes long. You can just watch it again until you get it. You know what I mean? I probably will. And I'm really looking forward to his last one, which is like called Scenarios or something. And then, still on the experimental side, but things that I think I found a little bit easier to like digest or understand. And Alex, I think you'd really like both of these, and they're both on YouTube. These two from John Smith, The Girl Chewing Gum, 1976, which is an experimental short that he said was inspired by a scene from Truffaut's Day for Night. And basically what the short is it's just like he's just filming a London street and all the people walking by and all the stuff happening, but there's a director's voice behind the camera who's directing everybody, even though he's not really, right? And so it's like, okay, and then we'll have the girl chewing gum walk across, and then a girl chewing gum walks across, right? And he's like, okay, two birds, and then bird, right. And then he pans up to the clock and he's like, all right, I want like a clock tower, right? And he's like, I want the hour hand to go around this many rotations. That's you know funny, what I mean? Yeah. And it's great. It's very smart, and it's very funny as well. You know, about like this, how film is constructed, right? And this sort of dichotomy between the image and the sound, and how one influences the other, and so on and so forth. I don't know. It's a famous experimental film that is also like very funny. Very then similarly, The Black Tower from 1987 is an experimental film that is also funny, but also like terrifying.
Stephen King.
Yeah. It's surely where Stephen King got his ideas from.
The Gunslinger.
The Gunslinger. Matthew McConaughey is there.
Yep.
Idris Elba's there. Whoever else is in that movie. No, The Black Tower is another like a constructivist movie that is so smart, and it's about like the narrative of the film. It's shots. The narrative of the film is this man in London is like out walking, and he notices this black tower, and then he doesn't think about it, and then he goes home, and then throughout the next few months, he notices wherever he goes, out in London, he sees the tower, even though it can't possibly exist there. Like it's only in the one spot, but he sees it. It's like it's following him around, and it eventually drives him crazy. And he goes to a mental hospital, and then gets released and goes to the countryside to like recuperate. And he sees the Black Tower, and he goes in, and then he like dies. And then another woman starts seeing it after his funeral. All this other stuff, right? Yeah. That's the narrative of the movie. But what's so interesting about like the film is again similar to Girl Chewing Gum, like about how like cinema is constructed, and through the audio track and the visual, how you can create something completely fantastical with something that is actually on the surface like actually very mundane. Because I was thinking, how is this made? And then how it's made is that there's this black tower in part of this building in London, and you can shoot it from all different angles, and at every angle it kind of looks like it's in a different spot of the city. Just like, you shoot it from way over here, and it's behind trees, so it looks like it's in the countryside. You shoot it from here, and it looks like it's part of the mental hospital he's going to. Right. You shoot it from this angle, and it looks like it's, and so it's not fake. It's just different angles of the thing, but he's made it look like
a spooky tower.
Yeah, it's great. I really liked it.
Is that tower still there?
I don't know.
The Black Tower of London, the famous,
I don't know,
ominous Black Tower.
I don't know. I don't know.
Camden Town.
What's in there? Who knows? We don't know. Anyway, great movie.
Boris Johnson.
Yeah, it's where Boris Johnson lives. Yeah, Bojo. Could be. And that brings us to another great experimental film, Bad Boys 2 from 2003.
And in honor of this being such a Florida movie, we have special Florida guests on the pod.
No way.
The Costco guys.
Oh,
that's right. We got AJ Bufumo.
Wow.
Double chunk chocolate cookie.
Oh my God, this is like seeing a celebrity. This is crazy.
Big Justice. I watched this movie eating a chicken bake.
Wow.
And the Rizzler.
You can't hear him, but he's doing
the face.
He's doing the thing. Does the Rizzler talk?
Yeah, he's just a tiny kid.
What does he sound like?
Well, I'm the Wizard. I'm the Wizard.
I'm the Wizard. Yeah.
I'm a baby.
Yeah, that's great. So you got the fat man and his fat son.
Yeah, AJ Bufumo and Big Justice.
It's so funny. His last name is Bufumo.
Yeah, his name's crazy. AJ, do you give this movie a boom or a doom? I give it 5 booms. Boom, 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 boom.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that's great, AJ.
What about Big Justice?
I give it 1 boom. Boom.
It's just because he's younger.
And I don't want to do that again.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to do that again.
Here, ask me what the Rizzler gives it.
Rizzler, what did you think of Bad Boys?
I'm the fucking Rizzler, baby. I gave it fucking 5 Rizzlers, and I jerked off to the part with the titties. I'm the Rizzler, and I'm gonna fuck you. Ha 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 ha. That's his catchphrase, right?
He's like a 7-year-old boy.
Yeah, I'm 7 years old,
and
I'm 7 years old, and I've already committed crimes.
But I fuck like a 40-year-old.
I fuck like a 40-year-old. I'm a 7-year-old. Fucking freak, baby. My entire 7-year-old diet consists of Costco food, and it's filled me with sexual menace. Right? Can't be healthy for you.
There's a clip of him saying his favorite movie series is Scream.
What?
Which is very funny. Yeah,
he's too young.
That's what people
I know.
are saying.
We were just doing impressions.
He's entirely too young and innocent.
He's way too young
to
see the Scream movies. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you to AJ Bufumo, Big Justice, and the Rizzler. Maybe we could play their song "Here Comes the Boom" to see him out.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Double chunk chocolate cookie.
I'm the Rizzler. I'm gonna go rob a bank.
That's just gonna blow up our metrics.
Yeah,
that was huge.
That was huge. Should I include in the episode title that they
the Costco
that
guys?
they're here? Probably not, right?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
We're already. Should we? Is it already going to be Bad Boys 2 / Caveh Zahedi
/ the Costco guys? The Costco guys on Caveh Zahedi and Bad Boys 2. We didn't ask them what they thought of.
We certainly. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're litigious. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the Rizzler.
They kind of have that vibe.
I gotta sue you. I gotta sue your ass.
I'm gonna sue the shit out of you. That Rizzler, he's a character.
He's got a filthy mouth.
He does for a child.
Yeah, he's kind of a creep. I don't like that guy. Well, we watched Bad Boys 2.
Sure did.
Last
2003?
episode, 2003. Last episode, I think we were both sort of, not disappointed because we didn't have expectations, but I think we both thought that the Bad Boys 1 is whatever.
Yeah.
It's like not that great.
No.
It's Michael Bay's first movie. The humor is stupid. I don't think even Will Smith or Martin Lawrence, their chemistry isn't particularly great in it.
It's weird. It's off.
Yeah, right. And the Michael Bay isms, the Bayhem, not really developed.
Not fully developed. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
Bad Boys 2, he's made a couple movies by this point.
A couple bangers.
Yeah, and Pearl Harbor. And Bad Boys 2, I think, it may have received some mixed critical reviews at the time, but was like a huge hit, right? And was sort of inescapable for like a little while when it came out.
Because the song came out, that very popular song, and
Bad Boys.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about. And like this movie, I think the kind of popular critical consensus amongst like letterboxed film Twitter people, vulgar auteurs, quote unquote, is that this is some sort of like twisted American masterpiece, right?
Sure. I don't agree, but that's nice.
I appreciate that read of it.
Yeah,
I read a
me
lot
too.
of like crazy 5-star reviews, and I love that. Here's the thing. Here's my opinion. I won't ever appreciate a movie that is good in the way that this movie is good over something that I think actually has similar like aesthetic innovations, but is like more either coherent or like interesting in its just general presentation, and plot and character development and so on. Like for example, tonight, the frickin' Paradise Theater is playing Miami Vice, the Michael Mann film, right? Something like that is always going to be, if call it whatever you want, call it vulgaritourism or whatever stupid thing, that is going to be something that I find to be a masterpiece over this any day of the week, because, that has an extremely distinct style to it, of filmmaking, but is also like, and has a lot of ludicrous other elements to it, but I think is so much more like impressive as an actual like story as well, and amongst other things. Or even something like, think about something like Belly, right? Like Belly is like a crazy movie, like formally, right? And the story is nuts. Like it's all over the place. It doesn't really matter. And the acting is not necessarily always good, right? Starring non-actors and so on, like Nas and whoever else, right?
DMX.
DMX is great though. They could have given him an Oscar, but they didn't. But even that, feels more sort of cohesive. I don't know. I don't really know what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is there's so much about Bad Boys 2 that it's like repellent, right?
Yeah.
The Michael Bay-isms, the humor, literally the like plot, like the things that happen in this movie, extremely repellent, gross movie.
Yeah.
And it's like absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? Like it is every single shot of this movie is insane. For 2.5 hours long, it is bloated, and
it's bloated like the corpses.
Yeah. It's like crass. It's disgusting. Yeah. It's extremely. It's like the kind of American chauvinist kind of movie of the like early 2000s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And that counts for something.
Sure, it totally does, and that is why I, similar to you, really appreciate that discourse and the people who are willing to talk about this movie as a masterpiece and describe it as such and go in depth on it. But I myself, I appreciated the parts about it that make it kind of the standout little oddball curio or whatever, but it wasn't super duper entertaining for me. you know? Like it was weird to look at. I was going to say it was nice to look at, but it was weird to look at.
It's stressful.
The camera doesn't stop moving for the first like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then even when it does chill out, everything is just so like sleek. And it's so sleek that everything's wet. And I know it's Miami, which is really hot, so everyone is like kind of like sweating, but it just feels like a very like moist movie. It's an interesting look. I still kind of was running up against some of the same problems as I did with Bad Boys 1, even though they really amp up the quote unquote humor. Like they really try to make like Mike and Marcus kind of more, you know, butting heads in a goofy way, and like they try to insert more jokes and stuff. But like it's all just, I don't know. It's all just so warped.
Oh yeah, so it's it's totally warped. That's a great way of putting it. This movie is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
You know, we talk. I think we even mentioned something like in the first Bad Boys, talking about like Tony Scott's style, right? His film Domino, right? Which is like the most Tony Scott style you could get, to the point where it's like actually impossible to look at. And this is like the most Michael Bay movie maybe there is, but I found it really exciting the whole time. Here's the thing. I was laughing at this movie throughout the movie.
Wow.
Not at the jokes or whatever happens. Anytime there's a joke or whatever, the jokes are lame. They're not funny.
There's early on, there's a cutaway, like a Family Guy-esque cutaway gag where he's like, when I went to therapy, and then it cuts to Will Smith in therapy, but he's so hot, he bangs the therapist. Yeah. And that's the fucking joke.
There's so much of the humor is like that circa like early 2000s, like Family Guy style humor. It's I'm sure you can get a laugh out of it, whatever. But it's just it's the easiest, lamest joke. There's a lot of like gay panic jokes. There's a lot of like that scene where they're kind of interrogating like the daughter's boyfriend.
That was a weird scene.
It's super weird. It's super weird. They're like being really rough with him. Like,
he's a young black man.
Yeah,
and you have these two older black men just
they keep calling him the N-word and stuff, and they keep like, I don't know, they're harassing him, like you know what I mean? And the joke is like
in a weird way. They're protective adults of Marcus's daughter, but they're being weird.
They're being really weird about it. And I think the movie is somewhat self-aware that it's weird, but we're also supposed to like these guys too, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the. So I don't laugh at any of these jokes, right? But I laugh at so much of what happens in the movie. Like so many of the camera moves, and any time that the camera is going through a car crash and it looks like the car hits the camera, I laugh every time at that. I laugh at all the ridiculousness, all this sort of stuff. And one of the biggest laughs of the movie is from that scene where they're interrogating this poor guy, and he's like, I'm just here to go on a date, right? And then it ends. And then they like whatever chest bump each other, and Marcus says, "That was so cool," because to me that really sums up like the Michael Bay vibe, like where they'll just they do something crass and dumb and gross, and then you go, hey, "Bro, that was fucking epic," you know what I mean? And I don't think he's. He gets a lot of credit for self-awareness, mostly post like Pain and Gain, which is unfortunately one I haven't seen all of. I've seen part of it, not all of it. I think that's fair enough, but I don't think this is a particularly self-aware movie.
No,
I think it revels in kind of it's proud of being
maximalist and crazy. Maximalist, yeah. You have two credits during the opening. Well, first of all, the first text to appear on screen, which I found funny, was Ecstasy Lab Amsterdam.
Yeah.
That's like the first orientation we get and the first text to come up on the screen.
And this sets you up well, because it's the opening credits are at the Ecstasy Lab, and it's like Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, like Bad Boys, Michael Bay, whatever, like, right? And that's what this movie is. This movie is like taking ecstasy.
Yeah, you know what? Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. And then the two credits that raised an eyebrow, I was like, additional music by Dr. Dre, so sick. Musical consultant P. Diddy. Like, they just had P. Diddy on as a musical consultant. Like, this movie feels like my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just filled to the brim with all this shit. And, I can't help but think of Hot Fuzz, and I do agree with Simon Pegg's character, Sergeant Nicholas Angel, in his assessment. Well, I wouldn't argue that it wasn't a no-holds-barred, adrenaline-fueled thrill ride, but there is no way you can perpetrate that amount of carnage and mayhem and not incur a considerable amount of paperwork.
Okay, uptight pencil neck.
Yeah. No, hearing you, talk about like laughing and everything, like I wish we could have watched this together, because
it would have been fun.
It is a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
And I guess
Did you
do ecstasy?
Yeah, I did some MDMA.
Fuck.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
I did. I'm just kidding. I don't have any. I would have. No, I watched this. I watched this starting at 12:30 a.m. after work.
Yeah.
And kept my neighbors up, going, "Yeah, fuck yeah! Oh my god, I'm gonna come."
Mike Lowry.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was just watching it alone, and I didn't have as good of a time. Like, I appreciate everything you're saying, but instead of like laughing along, fist bumping my TV, I was just kind of rolling my eyes. You know?
Well,
what I mean?
fair enough. I do not blame you. Like,
Yeah.
it's really stupid, and more so, worse than stupid. It's gross. It's actually gross. Like, it's very violent.
It's way more violent than the first one.
It's way more violent than the first one, and
It's more sexually explicit too. It's just very crass.
It's very crass. The crimes committed on dead bodies are kind of gross.
The desecration of dead bodies. I couldn't believe how big of a, similar to the first one, when I was like, wow, this swapped identity Tay Leone thing is a really big part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
A big part of this was centered around like morgues and stuff, and infiltrating morgues and dead bodies stuffed with drugs and money. Like, it was there's a car chase where like dead bodies fly out the back of like
gross. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
So I had actually seen this when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like, probably would have been 13 by the time it would have come out on movie channels or whatever, right? And the image that stuck with me the most, and you're going to say, oh, of course this is the image that stuck with you the most because you were like a horny 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
It was Martin Lawrence like hiding under the sheet with the big booby dead lady, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just that I was like, oh my God, breasts. I'm so excited. I'm going to masturbate.
Oh my God, breasts.
Oh my God, breasts. No, it's not just that. Because there's plenty of movies where that would have been the case around that time, you know?
It was the fact that it was Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, Martin Lawrence. Star of comedy special Run Tell Dad, which I still have never seen.
Me neither.
I remember when I was young too, I was like, what the hell is that? Like,
I was so confused by the title.
I know. This is like, I was like, oh, he's like Rumpelstiltskin, right? It's like Martin Lawrence, Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
This is an insight into the white suburban Canadian mind, you know?
Yeah.
No, I remember that because I thought I was disturbed by it because it's supposed to, forgive the phrase, titillate, but also but you know what I mean?
It's creepy.
It's creepy. It's not just that he's next to a dead body with like large breasts or something. Like they're specifically the kind of, they're like big fake breasts that are supposed to be like, get a load of this rack.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's the mindset the movie is in. The mindset is like, isn't this dead body kind of hot?
Don't you? Yeah. Wouldn't you want to fuck this dead lady?
Because then fucking like Mike Lowry, Will Smith makes a joke kind of about that, where he's like, oh, what are you doing under there, or something like that. You know, like he says something that kind of implies that Martin Lawrence would be titillated being under the cover with like a cold dead body in a morgue. That's just like, it's a really creepy, like,
it's weird.
It's like a 13-year-old mindset, but like the creepy 13-year-old, you know, like the 13-year-old who like had less of a filter than other 13-year-olds.
Yeah, and of course, you know, from the mind of like a man, an adult man, named Michael Bay.
Delivered by fucking like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, you know, like two of the most well-respected African-American actors of their generation.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, two of. Yeah. And it's
just weird vibes.
It's weird, yeah, of course it's weird. And I think you along those lines too, like in that like club scene, there's like kind of a stripper dance performed by Megan Fox. Did you notice Megan Fox is in it?
No.
I didn't know this either. I only looked it up when I read the Wikipedia page, and there's a controversy section. Megan Fox was 15 years old, and she's stripping in the movie, and later on, said, oh, whatever. There was a whole thing with Michael Bay, like post Transformers, where she was like, he's like an asshole to me on the set, and like objectifying me and all these other sorts of things. And then that led people back to this or whatever. But it's just all part of that same mindset, right? Where he's like, dude, bro, check this out. It's so fucking hot. And it's like a dead lady on the slab with her tits out,
Big tits.
or it's like a Megan Fox stripper, but she's like 15 years old. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of mindset where it's like, bro, fuck yeah. And it's like, no, this is actually kind of weird. What's this all about?
I know. And at the time, I had friends who were like big on this movie, and I never watched it at the time. This was my first time watching it. And yeah, I guess maybe when you were at that level, if you were like a 13-year-old in 2003, this probably would be radical and awesome.
Sure. Well, that other thing reminds me, we were at a sleepover, and this guy brought this movie, and he's Boondock Saints. It's the first time I'd seen it.
Right.
And he was selling us on Boondock Saints, and he said, plus there's boobage. He said the word boobage. He's like there's like major boobage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we watched it, and I'm pretty sure there's something similar in that movie where there's a dead woman and a guy grabs her breast, and goes honk or whatever. Yeah. And I remember thinking
have we not standards?
No, I was like, you guys are ridiculous. now, if you leave the room for 5 minutes, No, I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, that was the boobage. Like, great. What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
Gross. I don't know. So what is this movie about? It's about two bad boys. They're cops. In this one, I would say they are more bad than they were in the first movie. They do some bad things, some extrajudicial things, including, but not limited to, at the ending, they invade Cuba.
They do.
They invade Cuba.
Go to Cuba after shit gets real. It's quite a simple story.
Yeah.
Basically, people in Miami are trying to have fun doing MDMA in the place where you're meant to be doing MDMA.
Yeah, at the drug club.
And this incredibly fascist police force is like, no, we're going to kill anyone who sells or consumes MDMA, which leads them, on a hunt for Mr. Aggro Drift himself, Jordi Mola. Is that his name? Jordi.
He's the Aggro Drift guy.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
I haven't even seen Aggro Drift, and I knew that.
Oh, that's crazy. That's so crazy, man. Because they're in Miami.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess he stuck around after
I guess
Bad
that's
Boys.
just where he lives. Can't imagine that.
But
they show you a guy overdosing and dying
I was just
on MDMA
say,
or to be like, look, like it's bad.
Yeah, some like dude at a rave who overdoses, probably having the best time of his life.
Yeah, he's like, oh, bro, I just got to see a 15-year-old strip.
Yeah, and then that's justification for like all the people that they murder.
Yeah, they kill so many people. They kill so many people in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of, and then there's a subplot that kind of winds up tying into the main plot where it's Marcus's sister and she's like undercover or something, and Mike has like the hots for her or something.
Yes.
And she ends up being kidnapped and they have to rescue her. Like that's kind of the climactic sequence after the climax where they bust all the dead bodies filled with drugs. They're running drugs in and out of Miami in cadavers.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of which have giant fake tits.
Some of which are well endowed.
Yeah. The opening of the movie is rightly famous.
Right, yeah.
Henry Rollins.
Yep.
SWAT team commander, whatever.
Michael Shannon, Ku Klux Klan member. Yep.
Yeah, he just wandered on a set one day in the robes, and they said, get in there, kid.
He's got the look.
Just kidding. He does have the look. No, it's a famous scene where the two titular bad boys are undercover at a KKK like rally or meeting or whatever.
Take that, Black Klansman.
Out in the swamp. Yeah. A braver film than Black Klansman. They actually get out there, and it includes the famous shot. and I mean, really one of the kind of defining shots of the movie and perhaps of American cinema in general, when Will Smith whips off the Klan robe, reveals that it's, a black man, Will Smith, underneath, and has dual wielding pistols. Makes this kind of cross shape with his body as the burning cross of the KKK is behind him, and it just is
so sick.
It is just one of these like incredibly bizarre, crass pop Americana images that this movie is filled with.
Yes.
And it's just the kind of thing where you could see Michael Bay or the writers or whoever, they're making it and they're like, this is amazing. Yeah, this is fucking crazy. Like,
boom.
It's like, yeah, boom. Yeah, I'm giving it 5 booms. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Without, but like, like, I don't know. It's just such a strange image, right?
Yes. And it's a strange conceit that the KKK would be buying ecstasy during a major rally.
I don't know why they're buying. Don't they drink beer and, like, I don't know, maybe cocaine? What do the KKK do with the ecstasy? They all get it. They go to rave or something?
They take it and then they fuck.
I guess.
And it's funny, they're like picking it up during a major rally, like a giant cross burning rally, as opposed to like a low key, inconspicuous affair.
You're right. Yeah, they're out in the swamp somewhere, and there's a bunch of them, and they're armed to the teeth, and there's a big gunfight and whatever. No, so this moment, even just that shot, this is what I'm talking about with the vulgar auteurist, quote unquote, like stupid thing, right? Where it's like, you go on a Letterboxd and you'll find a 5-star review that's only talking about this scene, or even further, just this one shot, and they're like, relating it to like D.W. Griffith and like the like the like future of cinema and like all this other sort of like intertextual sort of things. And you'll read that, and you'll read it, and it'll be like 10 paragraphs, and then at the end you'll say, "Oh, okay, that's fantastic. I am dumber for having read that, but like compelling nonetheless." Right? And that's what I love. That's what I love about cinema.
And I support that too.
This movie represents what I love about cinema.
The funny thing is I know exactly what you mean by that statement, and I agree with you. But the movie itself that sparked all this, wonderful discourse and created these bizarre visuals doesn't quite do it for me, because part of the problem for me is the 2.5-hour story is so sprawling and so like weirdly constructed, and they kind of jump from set piece to set piece, but then they have these moments that I guess are supposed to be like the buddy cop comedy sequences where we see Mike and Marcus kind of deal with shit in their personal lives, and I guess a big drama point between the two in this is that Will Smith during the KKK thing shoots Marcus in the ass to shoot another KKK guy.
Yeah.
And Marcus is just like, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I don't want to be partners with Mike, and maybe I just don't even want to like be a cop or whatever because he's a family man and stuff. And
a lot of the movie is them fighting.
Yeah, and it just kind of like bounces around, and you get these comedy scenes, I guess, but I don't know. I just don't like them that much. I don't like the scene where they like grill the girl's date, which is supposed to be a very funny scene.
You want to read a funny review about that? Roger Ebert really didn't like that scene.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. I it's not that I think it's super offensive or something.
No.
I just think it's like the joke isn't that funny.
No,
really.
exactly.
Like, but because, and that's the thing. It's like it's such a weird. It's played so weird because it's like, it's a familiar scene. Like the daughter interrogating the boyfriend. Father interrogating the daughter's boyfriend. Yeah. Trying to scare him away. A familiar scene. But then with the two of them and them being cops and them like, having guns and like being aggressive, like, that's maybe a funny twist on it. But the thing is, it's pitched in this weird way where if they went further, Like, or maybe it was tonally a little different. It might have been funny.
If they went further, it would have been funny.
Yeah, but they go just far enough that it's actually really menacing.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't he hold up the gun to the guy?
Yeah.
He takes out the gun. He's like, it's just kind of weird. Like, this movie, okay, being 2003, obviously does not interrogate this idea of like the kind of identity crisis of them being both cops and like black men in America.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 3, which we're going to talk about tomorrow, which we have both seen at this point, without really getting into it too much. There's one line they have in the movie that makes any reference to that. That movie came out in 2020.
Yeah.
Like well after many national conversations about fascist American police like killing black people. And it's funny that they have one line in the movie at the very beginning of the movie that like makes any sort of reference to it, and it's very mild.
Right.
And then they just like don't deal with it. Right.
I don't even remember the line.
Exactly. It's such a throwaway thing. We'll talk about it next episode. This movie, being in 2003, obviously does not have any of that, but it's interesting that they, some of the behavior that they do in this movie, like I think couldn't be replicated in the more modern Bad Boys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, as we will see in Bad Boy 3 and I assume 4 as well, their bad boyness is like toned down significantly because they can't have cops do this bad behavior in the same way that they could. Although I was pleasantly surprised by how insane and violent the third one was. So
yeah, it's still pretty insane.
It's still
and
pretty
violent.
Crazy.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah.
There was one kind of throwaway line Martin Lawrence had that maybe was ad-lib, maybe it wasn't, that did kind of like make me laugh.
Yeah.
Like a very light chuckle.
He is funny. Like,
yeah, he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Run tell that.
Yeah. Rumpelstiltskin, yeah.
But again, it's like, I think it was part of this like not as funny comedic set piece where they go to Agro Drift's house to stake it out and they pretend to be exterminators or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, these big mice, they're called marsupials or something. Like just a bunch of like lame jokes.
Yeah.
Again, the problem is like a lot of these jokes and a lot of the comedic moments just are not funny and they're just kind of forced and weird. There's a scene where it might have been during a different sequence. I don't even remember when this was. But Martin Lawrence is like looking at a fish in an aquarium.
Yeah.
And he goes, this is a nice fish. Big fucking eyes, but a nice fish.
Oh,
it's when he takes ecstasy.
When he takes ecstasy.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He's funny in that scene.
Yeah, like some of it is kind of forced and lame.
Yeah.
And someone like pretending to be on ecstasy.
Of course.
But that scene where he's just staring down a fish in an aquarium, he's like, this is a nice fish. Big fucking eyes, but a nice fish.
No, he's funny. He's funny in that scene.
That cracked me up.
Yeah. Joey Pants, of course, is back. Right?
Gotta love Pantoliano.
Gotta love him. Yeah. The moments that stick out to me, the action moments that are the most impressive. I think the car chases in this movie are really good.
They're a step up.
They look super realistic. They look really dangerous. Something that I saw a lot of in Ambulance,
right?
Where with the drone shots, where it looks like the drone is like, it looks like they went through like 50 drones on the drone budget, just crashing them into car crashes, right? And I forgot that Bad Boys 2 has so much of that, where there'll be these really, really visceral car chases where cars are just getting exploded and torn apart and flying at the camera, like wrecks just like flying, and it looks like it's going to smash you and kill you, right? And I find it really exciting. I think it's really well shot. Like it's super good. It's like it like gets you going. And then of course one of the famous sequences in the movie too, when they're the other famous part when they're going into the drug house with the Haitian guys, right? There's the camera circles around and around and around, and it's like that fake like Fincher kind of Panic Room thing where it goes through the hole in the glass and it goes circles around and around, and Will Smith puts his gun up to the side and starts shooting them like through the wall and stuff. And again, just slaughtering people.
Yes.
Just killing hundreds of people, without any pause for
point blank range.
Yeah, it's
through
just
the head.
Insane, right? That scene is very like kinetic and bizarre and kind of like exhilarating in its own way.
It's wild to watch, but the content in the scene is quite silly and boring. You know what I mean? Like they're just going to interrogate these people and then they end up like slaughtering them. Yeah.
No, it's stupid. The movie is so stupid, right? Yeah. But it really is like there's kind of nothing else like it, Like
no, there isn't.
This is the peak of the Bayhem, I think. Yeah.
And that, as you alluded to earlier, they kind of solve the case. They get all the drug money, but then they find out that Agrodrift kidnapped Marcus's sister. And that's when the famous scene where he gets a call and he goes, "Shit just got real."
Shit just got real, and it's spinning around them like it's
Classic
the coolest thing in the
shot.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they go and invade Cuba.
Yeah. They invade Cuba.
Yeah, they team up with a paramilitary force.
Yeah, they team up with a bunch of people who look like SEAL Team 6, fucking freaks. Yeah.
And they mount an attack on Agrodrift's compound, which is partially protected by the Cuban army or something like that.
When we say they invade Cuba, we don't just mean they go over to Cuba to commit some crimes. They invade Cuba.
Yeah.
They take a covert paramilitary group over to Cuba and kill hundreds of Cuban people.
Yeah.
Yes, military people, but
Yeah. And shootouts happen, and eventually Jordi Mola is exploded by a mine.
Yeah, so they end up. This really is in line with the whole crass Americana stuff. They end up
at Guantanamo Bay.
Guantanamo Bay. So I don't remember when this came out in 2003. Where exactly it lined up with in the War on Terror, right? But this is before most Americans, were heard about Guantanamo Bay every day in the news. I would imagine, right?
You'd think, yeah.
Right before, you know what I mean? It's not that they didn't know it existed. It's just right before, it was Gitmo every day. You know what I mean? Before the scandal, before everything else.
Before the photos came out, maybe.
Exactly, yeah. So they end up outside and they're driving and they're like, Americans, we're Americans, and they end up in a minefield. And yeah, there's this whole thing where it's Martin Lawrence gets his chance finally to save Will Smith, and then the guy explodes. It's disgusting, and I don't know, whatever. It's such a funny example of kind of ignorant, ugly American filmmaking.
Yeah. It's a great example of it.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's worth watching.
My God, yes. If you're going to watch one of these movies, you should watch this one.
It was just a bit of a slog for me. I think I would have had more fun with you. Yeah. But sitting on my own for 2.5 hours, I was just kind of oh my God.
So let me tell you one other reason why it might have been more fun for me than normal. That night at the hotel was one of the hardest nights we've ever had to work, because there was a Rogers outage in the area. A truck had hit a fiber optics cable or something.
Oh my God.
So the internet, the TV, and the incoming phone calls were all down. So normally that would mean, I'm not doing anything. I'm not answering emails or chats or phones, whatever. No. We had to go out. I was on my feet for most of the shift. We're going out there. We're handing out these credit card forms to people to fill in because the machines are down. Everything is down. We're going total pen and paper, old school style, right? It was insane. And everybody's complaining and everyone's in a bad mood. And then I ended up taking so much longer to get home than normal. It was raining. It was a total hellish day, right? And I got home and now I still have to watch fucking Bad Boys 2. And it was so much better than what I had been doing that day that it really did help. Right. And that's the power of movies. Yeah.
That is the power of movies. And I'm happy you had that.
Yeah. I'm sorry you didn't.
It happens.
Yeah.
I think in honor of our friends, the Costco guys.
Yeah.
Maybe, first of all, would you give it a boom or a doom? And then how many booms out of 5?
Right. Well, okay. Here's the deal. I'm going to give this a boom rather than a doom, for sure. What about you?
I'm going to give it a boom, but it's a very mild boom. And it's a boom, if you're into, if it's either a boom if you're as dumb as nails and my friends in 2003 who loved this movie, if you're still in that mindset, it's a boom for you. And it's also a boom if you're curious about that whole kind of vulgar auteurist letterbox.
Zaboomafoo.
Zaboomafoo, yes.
AJ Zaboomafoo.
AJ Zaboomafoo.
Yeah, that's his name, right?
Yeah, double chunk chocolate cookie.
Those guys are... Okay, you know what? It's so funny you brought them up and that they guested on this episode, because to me, they represent something that Bad Boys 2 represents.
Yeah.
This very crass commercial American mindset.
100%.
Their content is what? Is just Costco. We go to Costco.
Pretty much. That's why I had them on.
That's crazy.
The pod. They just seemed thematically correct. Also, they're from Boca Raton. They mention it in the song "Here Comes the Boom."
Oh,
no,
of course.
We bring the boom.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, of course, we'll be putting that song in as well.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. Probably at the end of the episode as well. Okay, interesting. So how many booms is that? Like 1.5, 2 booms?
No, I give it all the way up to 2.5 booms out of 5. So that's a boom, boom, boo,
boo,
bow,
bow, bow,
yeah, bow,
bow,
boom,
right.
boom, bow.
All right. So listen here, folks. Listen. I want to stop short of those of the letterboxed guys, and let's be real. It's guys. Just kidding. It's also girls. But let's be really real. It's guys. The 5-star kind of this is a masterpiece sort of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Listen, like, that's cool. I am fully behind that. And there are movies where I think purely on a formal level, even if the rest of the whatever, for lack of a better word, content or like, meat of the film is like actually disgusting. There are things that I could get away with saying this is whatever, 5, 6, 7, 10 stars, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, for this, like, this is a 4 out of 5 boom movie.
Okay.
But with an asterisk, meaning that I'm appreciating this from a distance with a lot of with certain with a lot of reservations, right?
Okay,
like,
sure, yeah.
I appreciate this movie because it is gross.
Yeah.
Not because I like it that it's gross, but because I think it is kind of a fascinating, like, time capsule.
Totally.
And also example of like an American filmmaking that we don't really see anymore.
Also
for
true.
Better or for worse,
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I just think I had less fun watching it on my own.
Fair enough. Yeah. So boom, 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 boom.
And if you had to choose between a chicken bake or a double chunk chocolate cookie, which would you pick?
Well, those are kind of two totally different things. Well, what is a chicken bake?
From my understanding, because I don't think they have them in Canada.
I don't think so.
But a chicken bake is essentially like a Costco-made Hot Pocket. It's like a chicken Caesar in a Hot Pocket.
Sure. Or a double chunk chocolate cookie.
Pretty straightforward.
Right. So would I rather have dinner or dessert is sort of like lunch or dessert. That's kind of the vibe, right?
Yeah.
Well, seeing as how I'm trying to eat less sugar these days, I would probably go with a chicken bake, I guess.
Okay. So you're team Big Justice. And I'm team AJ Bufumo.
The Big Justice is the kid, right?
Big Justice loves chicken bakes.
I am team the kid because I am a passionate civil rights lawyer who is always teaming up with the exploited.
Right.
I team up with him, the kid, because seemingly in order to spend time with his dad, he must create content. And I find that to be distressing. So I'm in his corner,
Listen, he's going to be thanking AJ Bufumo when he has a fat 401k to lean on.
Well, that may be true. Yeah. I mean, that probably already is true. Yeah. I don't know. He looks like he's having fun. There was that behind the scenes video, wasn't there?
Yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah.
He looks miserable.
He's like poking with a stick.
No, say it like this.
It's really sick, eh?
It's fun.
It's sick. Yeah, great. Well, we'll be back for Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Sure will. No, it's called Bad Boys for Life.
Bad Boys for Life.
The fourth one is called Ride or Die.
Bad Boys Ride 3 or Die, right? That's so weird. Why would they do that? Anyway, we'll be back for Bad Boys for Life, which is surely going to be a short episode because we're doing it tomorrow. And you know what? I'll probably squeeze in a movie today on the commute.
You absolute madman.
And we'll have to talk about that one movie for 45 minutes.
Have a good day, everyone.
Yeah, have a chicken bake. And have a chocolate
double chunk
chocolate cookie. I'm the Rizzler.
Say it better, Rizzler.
I'm gonna kill you. I'll kill you in your dreams.
All my favorite hoodies at a bad bitch condo, but I know this Nina got my back like I'm Rondo. Sitting on my lap while I'm sliding through Chicago. Now we drive the boat, but when we came here we was cargo. A wise man told me follow anywhere the star go. So I'm in that double eyes blacker than some charcoal. Open up the side doors and scan you like a barcode. 40s for the little niggas, 50s for the 5-0. Vato, see ya in Berea, boy, you better duck your taco. Niggas, they be capping like they captain on the car. ship, this shit go anywhere that I go. And I got the city on my shoulder like Iago. We in Miami like Martin and Will. She tryna get her a part in the film. Love it in Florida, but when California, the red bottom blue is so hard in the hills. I'm at the dock with my arm in the wheel. This not no movie, I'm starving for real. This ain't no job, I'm starving for real. I'm hungry for real, I'm barring for real. I'm warm for real, hands up, this a coupe de tie. Try to keep it P like a 2-seat